Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. The World Bank warned U.S. tariffs could cut the already lackluster global economic growth of 2.7% in 2025. The World Bank's latest Global Economic Prospect Report forecasts flat global economic growth of 2.7% this year and next year, the same as in 2024, but could be cut further by 0.3% with incoming President Donald Trump's across-the-board tariffs of 10% and if America's trading partners retaliate with tariffs of their own. The Multilateral Development Bank also warned that developing economies now face their weakest long-term growth outlook since 2000. It explained growth in developing countries is expected to reach 4% in 2025 and 2026, well below pre-pandemic estimates due to high debt burdens, weak investment and sluggish productivity growth, along with rising costs of climate change. World Bank Chief Economist Indermit Hill urged countries to adopt domestic reforms to encourage investment and deepen trade relations. Global unemployment remained steady last year at a historic low of 5%, and the International Labor Organization sees it staying there in 2025. In a report, the Geneva-based body said the current global unemployment rate of 5% is the lowest since 1991 and is projected to tick lower again in 2026 to 4.9%. ILO chief macroeconomist Eckhard Ernst said a global economic slowdown will limit job creation. He noted young people facing a significantly higher unemployment rate of 12.6%.
With COVID, a lot of young people could not find their way back into employment, and they're still stuck at this problem. And in particular, we see a lot of young people actually dropping out of the labor market. They're not in employment and they're not in education and training either. We're talking about this need rate of 20% globally, and in some countries even much higher than that.
The ILO recommends boosting job creation through investment in education and a proposal for new private funds for migrants' remittances sent back home to boost development in poorer countries. Joblessness and systemic failures are to blame for self-rated hunger in the Philippines, hitting its highest level since the pandemic. That's according to Ibon Foundation Sunny Africa, who identified the weak distribution systems for social assistance and a declining agricultural and industrial sector as root causes for surveys showing more Filipinos reporting experiencing hunger more in December than in the last few years. He urges the government to prioritize industrialization to create jobs and reduce poverty, arguing that Band-Aid programs like Ayuda, AKAP, and Tupad are not enough.
In terms of the Philippines political context, a lot of leakages, quote unquote, are happening. To actually get that, I think, 28 billion increase in AKAP funds in 2024, that might explain why the Ayuda not just is not enough for so many people in need because of joblessness, but maybe even the Ayuda being assigned is not even going to those who need it at all.
On the lighter side, Japan's Nintendo will launch a Switch 2 console this year. Consumers and investors have been waiting for details of the new gaming console, which appears to closely follow the playbook established by the hybrid home portable Switch. Successor to its hit Switch device, the new Switch is thicker, has a bigger screen, has new colors, kept the controllers and kickstand while following much of the same features as the original. The Kyoto-based gaming company did not release pricing for the new device, but plans to provide more details at a Nintendo Direct event on April 2nd. The company said that existing Switch software will be usable on the new device, although some games may not be fully compatible. Up next, we'll uncover how internal family conflicts can cost a business more than just money, but also legacy. That taped interview after the break. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Family businesses are the backbone of many economies worldwide, and their longevity depends on navigating unique challenges that extend beyond traditional corporate governance. In 2024, family businesses in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia faced evolving market pressures, succession issues, and governance conflicts. Today, we are honored to have Professor Enrique Soriano, Family Governance Advisor at the Family and Business Strategic Consulting, to explore these issues, discuss their costs, and uncover solutions to ensure family-owned enterprises remain resilient. Welcome, Professor, and thank you so much for joining us.
You are so welcome, Raine. Good to see you again. Happy New Year.
Happy to have you, sir. And you're senior advisor also for the Wong Advisory Group, traveling to different countries, guiding families and their businesses to sort out their governance and help plan their succession. Can you kindly share with us what your experience has been like with these family businesses, especially those in the Philippines?
How do I classify it? Well, I enjoy my work. It's really a passion. We also came from a family-owning business way back in the 70s. But I can say that the Philippines is still a long way to go when it comes to family governance. We probably stereotype governance as corporate governance, but it's not really corporate governance. Everything starts with family governance before a company can move to corporate governance. So to your question, how I do things, it's really a hand-holding process that typically can start from anywhere from 1 year to as long as 10 years, because succession plays a big part if businesses would like to extend all the way to 100 years. So it's exciting, but oftentimes it's quite challenging, especially when emotions and intergeneration conflict comes into play.
And we did show a graphic coming from one of your slides. The data indeed shows that over 85% of businesses in the Philippines are family-owned, yet only 30% of them survive into the third generation. What do you think might be the most critical challenge leading to this decline, and what are the direct costs of failing to address it?
Fundamentally, when a family business starts, it's usually run by a mom and pop partnership, whether it's the founder and the spouse or purely the founder, without any expectations of growing. But as he moves in and grows the business and scales the business, the love language purely is all about money. The obsession to grow, the scaling, all of these things are focused on making more money, forgetting a very important principle, which is essentially structure. As the kids enter, it's the same. The founder will tell the kids, hop on in, you're done with university, it's now your duty to come into the picture and help out. So as they continue to march and grow the business, there are no rules. And the emperor or the founder pretty much dictates. So as the business balloons to Bilyonaryo status, then it starts to get complicated, and conflict escalates. Siblings do not know their roles. The founder gets old, and before anything happens, the strain, the relationship, the in-laws, and the complexity of the business enters the picture. By the time, it's going to be difficult to untangle the mess. So I would wish that families would start early with their governance journey, not when it's too late, not when the complexity would be so difficult to manage. That's really the essence of my role. That's why it's a hand-holding process that I do in Asia.
I think mediation, having a third-party expert really might settle any conflict or emotionality that's happening in each of these family business decisions. So, as you said, emotional attachment to the family business instead of the family can cloud judgment and lead to costly decisions. How much could it possibly cost, and how does a family separate the emotional from the rational aspects of decision making?
Oh, the cost can go down as much as a disintegration of the family business and an irreversible strain in the relationship that can extend to cousins and to future generations. So clearly, the cost cannot be quantified here. In my experience, having done this for almost close to 2 decades, we've probably saved close to 450,000 jobs trying to mediate, trying to manage, trying to diffuse the tension among family owners. And if not for our intervention, the cost would have simply impacted all these jobs and relational issues that will never be repaired. Because for many that did it themselves, the courts would normally intervene. And the moment you go to the courts, it's quite difficult to really take out the emotion in this particular experience.
Those are definitely grave repercussions. You also mentioned earlier about love language and how it's important to start that from the very beginning of family life, not just the family business. In your experience, is there a role that family dynamics play in either strengthening or destabilizing a business? At what point, let's say, should the founders or heads of the family business decide that, yes, the family organization is strong enough to carry on to the next generation? Or at what point should they say, I think this family business will not make it and it's time to wind down the business or sell it or offer it to successors outside the family?
That's a very remarkable question, Raine. The biggest problem we have is 70% of the clients that approach us in Asia, they either have a problem or they see an impending problem. So it's essentially reactive. How I wish that while they're still relatively a small organization, they can already see that as they grow, it complicates. As their children get married, it complicates. As in-laws come in, as grandchildren come in, as marital breakdowns happen, and when there's death or incapacity, all of these things are predictable. But at the end of the day, to your question, it all boils down to a mindset of the founder. That as he moves forward and grow the business, that mindset that, hey, I'm going to get sick at some point, that's a given. I'm going to grow old, I'm going to die. These are triggering events that can compromise and disrupt the business. I need to start now. So I'm referring to a mindset change. That you can never be Superman or a Superwoman. You need strong rules, institutionalizing policies, regulating behavior. Who owns what? Can it be equal? Can a non-blood own shares? Can we address all of this? So as you see in the slide, it's a founder mindset. And then rules. Should I bring in an offspring that didn't finish school, to be in the same platform as another offspring that took his or her MBA? Meritocracy. Then clarity of roles. all of these things are part and parcel of the succession journey in order to create that legacy and preserving the wealth. So it's a process. That's why I mentioned to you it can take as much as 5 to 10 years, and constantly getting that mindset alive in the course of this journey, because these founders are after making more money. It's hard to make them realize that apart from money, beyond money, there is that essential need to ensure your legacy is intact.
Right, and we know that with some conglomerates, with family conglomerates, they do start training their next in line as early as possible. We've seen that the Ayala Corporation, the Ayala family, for example, have already handed over the reins to the third generation in some areas. We've also seen the Gokong Wei family hand over the reins of at least one of their businesses to a seemingly non-family member. Of course, which brings us to the point that you were making about corporate governance in the families. It's a growing trend in family businesses, with more firms adopting external boards, for example, to professionalize decision-making, whether it was because of illness or whether it was because of market forces, business conditions. How do you see this affecting both control and profitability of the business?
Just the right question to answer this. We talk about the Ayalas, the Gokong Weis. They're stepping back and just moving to the board level, allowing the next generation to assume the role that they obviously will let go. This is part of the process, and they're simply compliant of their family constitution. A family constitution puts certain age limits to allow the next generation to have wings and to also empower them to make decisions. So these two conglomerates that you mentioned have simply complied with what they have signed probably a decade or many decades ago. So this is what we call structures and systems and compliance of these rules. And as they transition, the next generation will now have to scale it, but they have accountabilities. Now, to answer your question, even non-family members have assumed the mantle of leadership in some business units. It's probably because they felt there's a need to reinforce the current crop of family members with professionals to become interim CEOs. And most of these interim CEOs are probably loyal, career-oriented professionals that joined them 20, 30 years ago. So this is what we call a transition. This is part and parcel of that governance journey, that if a next family member may not be equipped, a professional can come in as an interim CEO that will mentor the next generation so that there will be less disruptions along the way. So this is really what that journey that I told you earlier, a 5 to 10 year process, and then test the waters, allow them, give them wings, empower the next generation, and as they mature in their roles, they can scale the business further, better than the previous generation. So again, typically, for many family-owned businesses, big or small, it starts with a real single proprietorship. Then it moves to a board, but it's a paper board where the sole decision maker is still the founder. But we normally encourage them, move to the next stage. Get a board of advisors if you're not ready to bring in independent directors, until it ends up in the fiduciary board, where you mix family members that are still majority with independent directors. So that is part of the transition. And it's not easy. You can't do it overnight. It is, again, a process of convincing a mindset that for years have been running the show all on its own. That's why sharing power to the next generation is really a challenge for us consultant.
Right, which is why it's also, as a stock market reporter for a time, it's always been interesting to see all these transitions. Not so interesting to see the disruptions, not so pleasant. But
Yes.
Again, it's always good to monitor the rise in influence of the younger generations in family businesses, especially post-pandemic. Perhaps as a final note in our last minute, do you foresee that as the younger generation steps in, are there financial risks that they pose to the existing structure, or do you see that scaling that they're challenged to actually do?
At the end of the day, Raine, the leadership change must also be covered with what we refer to as the most deserving and the most qualified successor. You just don't cherry pick. Just because he is blood, it's his birthright, he can or she can assume the mantle of leadership. That is a no-no in family governance. Anybody that you handpick for a very important position must follow certain criteria. And it has to be commitment, character, integrity, and he or she must be the most qualified and deserving. So there's no shortcut to a succession process. If there are no qualified ones, then a professional non-family member comes in. If there are qualified ones, it's not also perpetual. They must also adhere to certain key performance indicators. They must be accountable. In our case, we subject them to service agreements, a contract that they must perform, they must follow certain rules, they must deliver, because every year there is a board that will re-elect them or replace them. When they are replaced, they need to be retrained again. So here, entitlement is out of the picture. It's all about meritocracy. That's why it minimizes the risks, especially if you're a listed firm. And that's the beauty of family governance. As they move from family governance, they move to corporate governance, where they put in independent directors. And then finally, they move to ownership governance, ensuring the legacy will continue for as long as it takes.
You make it sound so simple, and yet we know that it's really not that simple. It's really complex. But always good to touch base with you, always good to consult you. I know that this is a full-blown course, which you gave to us in about 15 minutes. We hope to chat with you again, consult with you further as these transitions and possibly disruptions happen. Thank you so much, for Professor Enrique Soriano, Family Governance Advisor of the Family Business Strategic Consulting, for sharing your invaluable insights today. Thank you.
Thank you, Raine. Glad to be here.
Grateful
Happy
for
New
you.
Year again.
Thank you. And before we go, we leave you with this thought from John L. Ward, the Clinical Professor Emeritus of Family Enterprise at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management. Governance in family businesses is not about control, but about creating structures that allow both the family and the business to thrive. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Catch us again on Monday, 10:30, only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top. Happy weekend.